The email arrived on a cold Tuesday morning, blunt and sterile like a bill from a hospital. It was from my father, Kenneth. The subject line was just winery access. The body was shorter. We've changed all the locks at the winery and the financial access codes. We no longer trust you. I read it twice. No, dear Kelsey, no love, Dad. Just a corporate execution. I took a slow breath, feeling the air chill my lungs. My hands didn't even shake. I replied with just 9 words. Noted. That was clever, but I believe you forgot one thing. Have you ever been the one holding everything together only to be treated like you were the one tearing it apart? Let me know your story in the comments. I'd love to know I'm not alone. It didn't start with a lockout. That was just the end. It started 4 years ago with a phone call I should have ignored. It was my father, Kenneth. His voice wasn't its usual booming, confident self. It was thin, reedy, and full of a panic I'd never heard before. Kelsey, we have a problem. A serious problem. I was a financial analyst, the numbers person in a family that only valued presentation. My brother Tyler was the brand. He was the golden child, the one they had handed the keys to our family's legacy winery in Napa, despite him barely graduating college with a marketing degree. And now Tyler, the brand, had run that legacy straight into the ground. My father explained it in hushed, mortified tones. Bad investments, overspending on vanity projects, unpaid vendors, a foreclosure notice. The family brand was about to become the family auction. I can't go to the banks, Kelsey, he'd said, his voice cracking. It would ruin us. It would ruin the name. He begged me to help. Me. The daughter he'd always called too practical. The one whose financial career was solid but boring. He needed the numbers person. But there was a catch. It had to be a secret. We can't let Tyler feel like a failure, my father insisted. It would crush his spirit. And we can't let the community know we're struggling. You can be an angel investor. An anonymous one just to get us through this patch. An angel investor. That's what he called it. I looked around my small rented apartment. I wasn't an angel. I was just a woman with a good salary and a lifetime of craving their validation. And so I said yes. I agreed to wire $6,500 every single month to an account he'd set up. The operating loan, he called it. Looking back, people always ask why. Why would you do that? Why would you sign up to be an enabler? It's a fair question, but they don't understand the psychology of being the survivor. When you grow up in a prison that doesn't have bars, you learn to survive differently. You're not praised for being you. You're praised for being useful. Your worth is tied to what you can fix. That invisible chain is the heaviest of all. You spend your life waiting for the one test, the one final exam that will finally prove you belong. This was my final exam. I thought that by saving them they would finally see me. That my secret sacrifice would be the one thing they couldn't ignore. I wasn't just sending money. I was paying for a seat at the table, convinced that one day they'd finally ask me to sit. For 4 years I paid every month $6,500. I downgraded my car. I put off buying my own home. I told myself that the pride in their legacy was partly mine. I was the anonymous angel, the secret savior. But I had forgotten the most important rule of being an angel. Angels are meant to be in heaven. They're not meant to be on the payroll. And they're certainly not meant to find out they're being laughed at by the very people they're trying to save. The small cuts came slowly, almost politely. For 4 years I wasn't just an investor. I was trying to be a partner. I'd send detailed financial projections, market analyses, suggestions for cost saving. I was a professional and I wanted to share that expertise. The replies from my brother Tyler were always the same, dripping with condescension. Kelsey, these spreadsheets are cute really, but I'm the one on the ground here. I know the brand. You just focus on the capital. I'll handle the strategy. I was left off meeting invites. I'd hear about new expensive equipment bought with my money from a public press release. When I asked my father Kenneth why I wasn't included, he'd just say, "Don't rock the boat, Kelsey. Tyler is handling it. It's all part of the brand." I was a ghost haunting the halls of my own investment. The breaking point didn't come with a shout. It came on a Tuesday night. I was balancing my own books, feeling the familiar tight strain of that $6,500 transfer. My phone buzzed. An email from my mother, Stephanie. The subject line was FUD Investor Luncheon Plans. I was confused. No one had told me about an investor luncheon. I opened it. It was a forwarded chain. My mother must have hit forward instead of reply. I scrolled down past her note to find the original message. It was from Tyler to my father. Dad, the angel is getting a little noisy with her suggestions again. She's asking about the Q4 projections. Let's just use this dumb luck money to finally turn things around. She doesn't need to be in the weeds for the luncheon. It's too risky. My blood went cold. Dumb luck money. But it was the reply, the one from my mother to my father, that stopped my heart. The one she had accidentally forwarded to me. Kenneth, just handle her. Tell her we appreciate her input, but whatever you do, do not invite her. This luncheon is for real investors, not her. Just make sure the checks keep clearing. She's a guest with a wallet, not a partner. A guest with a wallet. The screen blurred. It wasn't an insult. It was a job title. It was my job description in the family, finalized and approved. All the sacrifices, the skipped vacations, the downgraded car, the years of telling myself I was saving the family legacy, it was all a lie. I wasn't family. I was a line of credit. I wasn't a savior. I was a mark. The illusion didn't just crack. It vaporized. In its place was a cold, hard clarity. They weren't just incompetent. They were deceitful. They had never seen my money as a loan. They saw it as an entitlement. And they had never, not once, seen me. I stood up from my desk, walked to the kitchen, and poured a glass of water. I watched my hand. It was perfectly steady. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even hurt anymore. I was just done. The angel was clocking out. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even pace. I just sat there for a minute, feeling the cold clarity settle over me. The guest with a wallet had just been given her closing invoice. So I got to work. I didn't call my father. I didn't text my mother. I opened my laptop and created a new password-protected file. I named it the Steward's Ledger. I didn't sleep for the next week. Sleep was a luxury. I had work to do. My narration in my head was no longer emotional. It was a cold, precise audit. 4 years of my life, 4 years of their deceit distilled into data. Line item. Every single wire transfer. The $6,500 monthly operating loan. I watched the total at the bottom of the spreadsheet climb. $100,000. $200,000. $315,000. Line item. Every condescending email from my brother Tyler, the ones where he called my financial projections cute. The one where he dismissed my concerns about the new bottling equipment, saying, "Leave the strategy to me, Kelsey. You're the numbers person." I saved them as PDFs. Line item. Every placating text message from my father, Kenneth. The ones he sent after. I'd questioned a large expense. "Kelsey, you have to trust the brand. Tyler knows what he's doing. We'll make you a real partner soon. I promise." I had 4 years of their promises. 4 years of their condescension and $315,000 worth of receipts. But the ledger wasn't the weapon. It was just the ammunition. I needed the final piece of leverage. My narration moved from accounting to strategy. The winery itself, the land, the brand, it was all just an asset. The real power, the thing my father and brother seemed to forget, was that the winery was owned by a holding company. A holding company set up by my grandfather Thomas decades ago. My family, Kenneth, Stephanie, and Tyler, were just board members. They had management roles, but my grandfather Thomas, 80 years old and living quietly in Florida, still held the only voting share. He was the true owner, the one who had built it all. The one who, like me, valued integrity over appearances. I waited until I had every file, every PDF, every screenshot. Then I picked up the phone. He answered on the second ring, his voice as clear and steady as ever. "Kelsey, it's good to hear your voice. I didn't small talk. Grandfather, I need something from you. I can't explain everything right now, but I will. I promise." "What do you need?" "The annual investor luncheon is on Thursday. I need you to grant me your proxy vote. I need you to give me your share." There was a long silence on the line, not a hesitation, just a thoughtful pause. I could picture him looking out over the water, processing the request. He knew me. He knew I wouldn't ask for this unless it was the only way. It's time, isn't it? He said, his voice quiet. Sir. It is. All right. I'll have my attorney send the documents. It's done. He didn't ask why. He didn't ask what I was planning. He just trusted me. It was the one thing the rest of my family had never been willing to do. When I hung up, I looked at the steward's ledger on my screen. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait for them to walk into it. Which brings us back to this morning. That email wasn't a random act of cruelty. It was a panicked, clumsy countermove. My father's email, "We no longer trust you." What he meant was, "We just discovered you're a threat." They must have been notified about the proxy vote transfer from my grandfather's attorney. They realized the guest with a wallet had just been handed the keys to the entire building. The lockout wasn't a punishment. It was a failed corporate coup. They were trying to bar the real owner from the premises. The moment I sent my 9-word reply, my phone didn't just buzz. It detonated. It was a coordinated assault. A digital bombardment designed to make me panic, to make me feel small, to make me doubt myself. First, my father, Kenneth. I let it go to voicemail. The message he left wasn't from a father. It was from a cornered CEO. "Kelsey, I don't know what you think you're playing at, but you will call me back now. You are not an investor. You're a family. You will not embarrass us at that luncheon. This is my legacy." I deleted it. Next, a rapid-fire string of texts from my brother Tyler. "You're uninvited. Seriously, don't bother showing up. Dad is furious. You're tearing this family apart over nothing. I'm warning you, Kelsey. Stay home. You are not welcome here." I read his words. "You're uninvited," and almost laughed. He was an employee and he was trying to ban the majority shareholder from the meeting. It was adorable. Then my mother Stephanie, she tried a different tactic. Guilt. "Kelsey, honey, please. Your father is so stressed. Tyler is just trying to protect the brand. We can talk about this after the luncheon. Please don't make a scene. We're all on edge. Just be the bigger person. Be the bigger person." The family motto for shut up and take it. I looked at the chaos on my phone screen. The yelling, the threats, the emotional blackmail. It was the same playbook they had used my entire life. And for the first time it had absolutely no effect. I put my phone on silent. I walked to my closet and pulled out the best suit I owned. A dark charcoal gray, sharp and professional. I put on the pearls my grandmother, Thomas's wife, had left me. I did my hair not for a party but for a hostile takeover. I looked in the mirror. I didn't see the naive angel investor. I didn't see the guest with a wallet. I saw a woman who had every receipt. My phone was still vibrating on the counter, a frantic, desperate pulse. I picked it up, glanced at the screen, another string of missed calls from my father, and then I slipped it into my suit pocket. I grabbed my briefcase. Inside was my laptop, a hard copy of the steward's ledger, and the notarized proxy vote from my grandfather. I walked out of my apartment, got into my car and started the engine. The drive to Napa was 2 hours. I didn't turn on the radio. I just drove, rehearsing the numbers in my head. $315,000. $60,000 in wire fraud. 1 voting share. They were waiting for a scene. They were expecting the emotional daughter. They had no idea they were about to meet the financial analyst. When I walked into the investor luncheon, the polite chatter in the room didn't just quiet. It fractured. I saw my father, Kenneth, standing near the main table, his face turning a dark mottled red. My mother, Stephanie, who was laughing with another investor's wife, froze her smile, looking like a cheap mask. And Tyler, he just stared, his golden child confidence evaporating in real time. They were furious. But this wasn't our living room. This was their stage in front of their peers. They couldn't make a scene, so they did nothing. They just watched as I, the uninvited, untrusted guest, took a seat at an empty table in the back. The luncheon was a performance. My father gave a booming speech about legacy and the strength of the family brand. He talked about weathering the storm and coming out stronger. Then he turned the podium over to Tyler for the main presentation. Tyler was smug, fueled by the polite applause. He clicked through slides of meaningless projections and marketing buzzwords. At the end, he raised his glass of winery-branded champagne. And finally he said, smirking out at the crowd, "I want to make a special toast. To our anonymous angel investor, wherever you are, your naive belief in us made all this possible. We couldn't have done it without you. The room chuckled politely. My father beamed. My mother dabbed her eye. I waited for the laughter to die. Then I stood up. Every eye in the room turned to me. I saw my father give a sharp, almost imperceptible shake of his head. Sit down. I didn't. I walked calmly, my heels clicking on the stone floor, right up to the podium. Tyler looked confused, like a golden retriever seeing a math equation. Thank you, Tyler, I said, my voice carrying in the sudden heavy silence. I am here and I'm so glad you find my belief naive. I didn't wait for a response. I pulled my own laptop from my briefcase and unplugged his. My name is Kelsey, I said to the room. And I am the angel investor who has personally funded this winery for the last 4 years. I plugged in my laptop. The projector screen flickered and then there it was, 10 feet high for everyone to see. The steward's ledger. You toast my naive belief, I said, my voice cold and clear. I call it an investment. An investment of $315,000. You could have heard a pin drop. I clicked to the next slide. This is the ledger of every wire transfer, every operating loan I've sent to keep this legacy from defaulting. While my brother, the CEO, played brand ambassador. I saw Tyler lurch forward, but my father grabbed his arm. I was told my input was cute, I continued. I was told I was the numbers person and should stay out of strategy. I was even, according to this email, just a guest with a wallet, not a partner. I projected the email chain. My mother's words, just make sure the checks keep clearing, were now the main presentation. Stephanie made a small, strangled sound. Kenneth looked like he was going to be sick. So, as the primary stakeholder, I'm here for the quarterly report I was never invited to. Before my father could find his voice, before Tyler could form an excuse, a new voice cut through the tension. Thank you, Kelsey. I believe I can take it from here. My grandfather, Thomas, stood up from the back table. He had arrived an hour ago, unnoticed, and had been sitting there watching. He walked slowly to the podium and I stepped aside. He didn't look at his son. He didn't look at his grandson. He looked at the investors. As the sole owner of this holding company, Thomas said, his voice quiet but echoing with absolute authority. I am personally initiating an immediate forensic audit of the winery's finances. He turned his gaze to Tyler, who had gone white as a sheet. It appears naive belief wasn't the only thing funding this operation. It seems my grandson here forgot the difference between an investment and a personal slush fund. He's been committing wire fraud. My mother actually screamed. The audit shows $60,000 of Kelsey's money, her money, siphoned directly from the operating account into a personal offshore account registered in Tyler's name. The collapse was immediate. Tyler literally staggered, grabbing the edge of a table. Stephanie was openly sobbing. No. Kenneth just stared mute. His entire legacy, his entire brand dissolving into ash in a single sentence. Strange watching a family like that break. I realize there's a profound difference between having and being. My family had everything. They had the name, the winery, the status, the reputation. But it was all a performance, a shell, a costume rented with my money. They had nothing of their own. No integrity, no character, no strength. The moment the money was questioned, the moment the illusion of power was punctured, there was nothing left inside. They weren't a family collapsing, they were just an empty wallet finally revealed. I run the winery now. My grandfather handed me the keys the next day, not as a gift but as a job. We're rebuilding it, this time with integrity. It turns out the true family legacy wasn't the land or the brand or the money. It was the honesty I had to fight to bring back to it. And if you're listening to this and you've ever been made to feel like you're on the outside of your own life, this is for you. Stop waiting for them to send you an invitation. Your worth is not determined by their inability to see it. You don't need their permission to be the main character in your own story. So go ahead, change the locks, draw the boundary, be your own angel investor and start building a life that is truly, finally yours.